Are you getting ready to move from the United States to the United Kingdom? I'm going to talk about what you need to do in the year leading up to your move. Hiya, I'm Peter and I'm an American who's lived in Scotland for a little over 3 years now. Moving abroad is a massive undertaking. This is the first video in my 6-part series on what to do to prepare for your move to the United Kingdom. The reason I'm splitting it up into 6 videos is because for many of these things, timing is crucial. Some things have to be done further in advance than others, and some things just need to be done regardless of if you do them a year before or a day before your move. And so today I'm going to be talking about a few things that you should be doing, or at least thinking about doing, a year before your move, or as soon as you know you're going to move if you're moving in less than a year. Getting these things done now will help free up a little bit of your time over the weeks and months directly before your move, because the closer the move gets, your schedule is going to be tighter than skinny jeans on a hot summer day. I'm going to start with a couple disclaimers. This video is intended for people who already have a visa and actually have concrete plans to move to the UK. I'm not giving tips on how to move to the UK. I'm giving tips on what to do when you are moving to the UK. I'm also going to assume that you already have a job lined up, or school, or whatever it is that you're coming here to do. This video is based on my own experience with moving abroad. There are so many aspects to such a life-changing experience, and I'm not sure if it's even possible to cover every single thing that would apply to you, but I hope this will give you a good start. I'm also curious as to whereabouts you're coming over from. Let me know in the comments where you're coming from and why you chose the UK. The first thing that you want to do is throw away every single thing that you own. And I'm kind of being a little bit serious about that. And no matter how much you want to, arriving by helicopter is probably not going to be an option for you. Once you start looking at packing up all your stuff, you're going to realize that you have a lot more than you thought you did. There are 2 big things to consider when moving your belongings, and that's both the cost associated with moving them and the space that you're going to have to store them once you arrive. Cost is a huge factor, but I would almost say that space is a bigger issue. Homes in the UK are in general microscopic compared to what you would usually expect in the United States, especially when it comes to things like storage space. For example, my house is a 3-bedroom house, and my master bedroom doesn't have a closet at all. When it comes down to it, I would really recommend that you only bring things that are super sentimental and just can't be replaced. And the reason why I say you should start this a year in advance is because it is going to take you way longer than you anticipate to go through all of your things and pack them up, get rid of them, or figure out how you're going to move them. Other than your checked and carry-on luggage for the flight, there are 3 main ways that you can get your items over to the UK. You can pay for a shipping container, a pallet, or just to send over loose luggage or boxes. The most expensive option is paying for a shipping container. For most people, I would recommend that you avoid sending a shipping container because it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. And while a shipping container will have plenty of space to put all of your things in it, if you're sending a shipping container, chances are that it's in order to include furniture, which for the most part is going to be a bad idea. Homes in the UK are significantly smaller than the United States in general, and that especially extends to things like hallways and doorways. When I lived in the United States, I had a super king size bed, and here in Scotland, I also have a super king size bed. The thing is, if I would have shipped my American bed over here, I can pretty much guarantee you that it would not have even fit inside of my doorway, let alone up the stairs and into my bedroom. And even if I would have somehow got it in there, it would have taken up almost the entire bedroom just because it's so massive. Bed sizes are just one of the things that is different here. So super king size here is not the same as in the States. And even if I would have brought my super king size mattress, anytime that I wanted to get sheets for it, I would have probably had to order them from the States, or something like that. I couldn't just go to any shop and get new sheets. It is going to be much cheaper to just sell your furniture in the United States and buy new furniture once you arrive here. Another thing is, if you are sending a shipping container with your furniture, you're going to be waiting months for it to arrive, and you're gonna have to figure out what to do in the meantime while you're waiting for all of your furniture to get there. All right, let's completely ignore the change of location and time of day while I continue this video somewhere else and continue to freeze my ass off. The next way is to ship a pallet, and this is one of the ways that I moved most of my belongings over here. I used a company called You Pack We Ship, and basically they sent me a pallet with a whole bunch of cardboard to kind of go around it and some tie downs. And it was nice because the weight, there is a weight limit, but there was no way I was going to go over that weight limit. But with the cardboard stuff that went around it, I also didn't have to worry about going over the size limit. If it's just a standard pallet, you have to make sure that nothing sticks out too far. And this way it was kind of all enclosed and also a little bit more protected, because you would put the cardboard around your items and then cover it with plastic before tying it down. The reason I got the pallet was for sentimental items. We had a really nice rocking chair that we got it before the kids were born, and so a little bit of sentimental value to it, and we didn't need to bring it with, but we wanted to. And of course that was way too big to fit onto any kind of a checked bag or something. So the main reason was for that. And we also put the baby's cribs in and then just kind of filled up the rest of the space with more sentimental items. The nice thing about this is that you can order the pallet months in advance before you're even ready to ship it. And so it gives you a little bit of extra time to go through your things and figure out what you're gonna pack. When I booked the pallet, it was about $1,200 is the total price. I hope the wind doesn't cut into this too much. But it was about $1,200. I paid the $400 deposit for them to ship it to me. And it was about a year later when I ultimately had them, I paid the final amount to book the collection. Now, one thing that I didn't think about was in that year, the price of shipping the pallet had gone up. So make sure that you factor that into your calculations, that it could go up a little bit. For me, it was about $300 or so that I ended up paying more than what it originally was. And of course, once they collected it, it was about 3 months door-to-door shipping. So once again, that's why I say this option is best for only sentimental items and things that you don't need right away. The third option, and this is what I recommend for most people, is a company called Send My Bag. In a nutshell, this service costs about the same as what you'll pay to check an extra bag with your airline, but they have a higher weight limit and it saves you from having to drag your bags through the airport. You can send suitcases, boxes, bicycles, golf bags, ski bags, and I've seen some mixed reviews online, but I've personally used Send My Bag 4 times and it's been fantastic every time. This is not sponsored, but I'll leave a link in the description for a referral code if you want to check them out for yourself. Every time I've used them, it's always been FedEx that has handled the collection and delivery. So it's basically the same as if you were shipping these items directly with FedEx, except it's a hell of a lot cheaper. You can do 15 Send My Bags by the time you end up being around the cost of what shipping an entire pallet would be. And it's a lot more manageable because it's some small boxes or suitcases instead of this gigantic pallet that you have to store and figure out how to pack and everything. This video is assuming that you already have your visa to come work here, so you will of course have a passport, and when you get that visa, passport has to be valid, but it's worth checking to see exactly when it expires, because if it is relatively soon, you might want to look into getting it renewed before you move, because it might be a little bit easier than getting it done once you live abroad. And renewing a passport, you might be waiting 6 months or so before you get it back. So you want to check that early on just to be safe. The light is fading fast, so I'm going to try and see if I can just finish the rest of this while walking along the beach here in Largs. This is a very rocky beach, so Hopefully I don't trip and fall while I'm trying to talk to camera. Now, there are a bunch of different Facebook groups for Americans that are going to or already live in the UK, and I would highly recommend joining some of them. I'll put a link in the comments to some of the ones that I'm a part of, and they can be a great resource if there's any questions that you have, or if anything, just to kind of browse and see what questions other people have asked, because it could bring up things that you didn't even think about. However, if you do join an American expat or immigrant group, I have two things that I need to tell you. Please use that search feature before you ask a question, because chances are someone's already asked that question and you can get your answer immediately instead of having to wait for people to respond. Also, if you make a post, please include what type of visa you have to move to the UK, or what route you're going to move, because even if your question has nothing to do with visas, there's a good chance that when you post that, most of the responses are people that are going to just be asking what type of visa you have, and maybe even getting upset that, they think that Americans think you can just buy a plane ticket and move, etc. So make sure that you try to anticipate that. This is the internet, so sometimes it doesn't matter how much you try to be nice and anticipate what people are going to ask. You might still upset someone, but just be mindful of that. A lot of these groups, there are a lot of questions I see that people go on there and are just kind of clueless and literally think you can just buy a plane ticket and move over here. Obviously, that's not the case, so just be mindful of that when you make posts on there. When you're moving abroad, you're going to have a fair bit of paperwork that you have to bring with you. Things like, of course, your birth certificate, social security card, maybe your marriage license, things like that. And obviously, you're going to want to bring them with you on your person when you fly over. And it's worth making sure that you get together a really good quality binder with all of your paperwork, because a lot of Americans don't realize this, but standard paper sizes are different in the UK and Europe than they are in the US. So in the US, it's 8.5 by 11 inches. Here, standard paper is A4 size, which is about 9 by 12 or something. So it's a different size, and anything that you get to store that paperwork here might not fit your American documents very well. So that's another one of those things that is not necessarily the most important thing to do, but if you've got a year until your move, think about it now, try to get that taken care of, so that when you're packing for the actual move, it's pretty simple to just kind of throw all that paperwork in your bag and you're good to go. Another thing you need to do is make sure you have a plan to bring your pets over if you have any pets. I'm working on a dedicated video about bringing cats and small dogs over to the UK without having to quarantine them or anything like that. But you want to make sure you check the process for doing that and get everything started early, because that does take some time to get sorted. Like I said, I'm making a dedicated video all about that, and I will post a link here in the video as soon as that is finished. Another thing that I'd recommend is buying a VPN. If you don't know what it is, a VPN is basically a tool for internet privacy, and it basically makes your computer think that you're somewhere else from where you actually are. So a mainstream use that a lot of people use it for is to watch Netflix. You might not realize it, but a lot of your Netflix shows or the Netflix shows are different in the US compared to what they have available in the UK. One example is The Office. I remember a couple years ago, a lot of Americans were complaining that The Office was not on Netflix anymore. But here in the UK, The Office was and still is available on Netflix. So you can kind of trick your computer into thinking that you're in another country from where you actually are. The big thing about using a VPN is if you set your VPN to be here in the UK, your Google search results will be different than if you were still at home in the United States. So it's worth checking out for when you're doing research about wherever it is you're moving to here in the UK. The light is fading really fast. It's windy and I'm cold as so the last point here I'm going to go through very quickly. I am not a financial guru or markets expert or anything. By American standards, most of my life I haven't even been middle class, even though there basically is no middle class in the United States anymore. But if you have any kind of retirement accounts, 401ks, pension plans, anything like that, you want to contact them and see how they will be affected when you are not a resident of the United States. Some companies might make you transfer to another plan, or you might have to cash out some of your accounts or things like that. So especially since that might take some time to process, make sure you start early and check into all of those retirement accounts before you move. One other side note to add on to that, this is something I found out a couple years ago. In August of 2022, I was made redundant from my job, which means laid off. And when I left, I expected the same thing to happen as what would happen in the United States. When you leave a job, they will basically contact you about your 401k plan, and you can choose to either transfer it into another account, or you can basically cash it out. They tax it heavily and give you a lot of fees, but you can just collect a check for whatever or most of whatever your vested balance is in your 401k whenever you leave a job. Here in the UK, it's not that way. When you have a pension plan, or their version of 401k basically, you can't touch that account until you actually retire. So even though I know it's not really a good idea to cash out your money anyways in the US, just kind of be aware here in the UK, you can't do that at all, even if you wanted to. If you made it this far in this video, thank you so much for your time. I try to respond to as many comments as I can. So if you have any questions or anything, leave it in the comment section. I'll respond to as many as I can. Stay tuned for the next video in this series, which is where I'll be talking about things that you need to do about 6 months or so before you move to the United Kingdom. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you want to stay up to date on any video I post, whether it's about Scotland in general or moving over here, or whatever else I decide to make a video about. And if you didn't like that video, then hit the thumbs down button twice and then subscribe anyways, because if you're still here after all this time, I think it's safe to say you probably enjoyed the video or you fell asleep and left the TV on. With that being said, I'm gonna go inside and warm up. Weatherspoons is calling my name. I'm gonna go get a unlimited latte for £1.50 because that's a thing here and I love it. Bye for now.